The first time I met Rowena Zellers, she was standing in my driveway like she owned it, clipboard in hand, oversized sunglasses, and a mouth that couldn't stop moving. "You can't have that trailer parked here," she barked, pointing at the 20-foot fishing trailer I'd just backed in. "This is a deed-restricted community under the Glenridge HOA, and that violates Section 14.3.2. I wiped the sweat off my forehead. "Lady, I'm not in your HOA." Her lips curled like I'd insulted her ancestors. "You live on the same street, that includes you." I leaned against the trailer hitch. "I bought this property 3 years ago. It was specifically listed as not part of an HOA, I made sure of that." "I don't care what your real estate agent told you, Kyle," she said, reading my name off the mailbox like it was a summons. "You're in Glenridge now." "Whether you like it or not," I laughed. "Nope, I'm not. And unless you've got some legal document that says otherwise, we're done here." She stormed off, heels clicking down the sidewalk like a metronome of rage. 2 days later, I got a letter. "Notice of violation, unauthorized trailer storage." Signed, of course, by Rowena Zellers, acting president of the Glenridge HOA. I tossed it in the trash. Then came the second letter. Then the third. Then a fine $500. I ignored all of them. Next thing I knew, a guy in khakis showed up claiming to be the HOA's compliance officer, talking about liens and legal action. I told him to get off my property before I called the sheriff. A week after that, I got served. Rowena Zellers had filed a lawsuit against me in small claims court, alleging I was willfully violating HOA regulations and owed over $3,000 in cumulative fines. She even claimed I'd signed a contract when I moved in. I was furious, but also weirdly excited. I'd been waiting for this. See, what Rowena didn't know was that I used to work in zoning enforcement for 2 different counties. I'd seen HOAs try this kind of stunt before expanding their power like mold in a damp basement. I showed up to court with a folder 2 inches thick. Property records. Plat maps. Original subdivision covenants. Even a notarized letter from the developer stating my lot was never included in the HOA boundaries. Rowena was already there, sitting at the plaintiff's table, flipping through her binder like she was preparing for a Supreme Court case. The judge came in, glanced at both of us, and asked Rowena to state her case first. She stood up like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. "Your Honor, Mr. Kyle Jensen has persistently violated the Glenridge HOA's established bylaws despite multiple notices. He resides within the geographical bounds of our community and is therefore subject to its rules." She handed up her stack of papers. The judge leafed through them, his brow furrowing. "Do you have a signed contract from Mr. Jensen agreeing to join this HOA?" Rowena blinked. "Well, no. But he lives on Alder Ridge Drive. That street is clearly within the Glenridge community." I raised my hand. "Yes, Mr. Jensen," the judge said. "I have with me the original plat map from the county recorder's office." I handed it over. "You'll see my property lot 39 was never included in the Glenridge HOA formation.
Sorry, I think it was
carved out before the HOA was established. I also have the developer's letter confirming that." The judge took his time, read everything, compared maps, looked at Rowena. "You dragged this man to court over a fabricated membership." Rowena's face flushed.
Guys,
"He should be in the HOA. It's not fair to the rest of us if he just..." The judge cut her off. "That's not how the law works, ma'am." He turned back to me. "Mr. Jensen, you're correct.
I mean, sometimes there is an actual F.
Your property is not part of this HOA. And frankly, I'm concerned this organization is attempting to enforce authority where it has none." Rowena opened her mouth again,
like I said,
but the judge raised a hand.
I got out.
"I'm referring this case to the county attorney's office for further review.
Unpack real quick.
If your HOA is unlawfully collecting dues or issuing fines outside its jurisdiction, that's a serious matter." He banged the gavel. "Case dismissed." Rowena looked like someone had just unplugged her. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The Monday after court, I was halfway through patching a drywall seam in the garage when a city code inspector knocked on my door. He introduced himself as Dale and explained that someone had submitted a complaint
We're gonna look at
that
some
I was
lovely,
modifying a
it's
structure
crowded, but
without
then again,
a permit.
it is always crowded here when
He
it's
looked
like cherry blossom
apologetic,
season, so
like he already knew it was nonsense.
expect some crowds like
I showed him
like
the interior,
like a few
the
days ago
untouched
when we
roof
went
line, and the
to
completely permitted trailer pad I'd
we
poured a
went to
year
the
ago.
park too, like at night.
Dale glanced over his checklist,
Expect
took
like
a single
similar
photo,
crowds
and
to that.
muttered,
But like I
"I'm
feel
gonna
like
close
this
this
area
out.
might be a
Sorry
little
to bother
bigger, so it should maybe
As he
be
left,
fine,
I
but
asked who filed the complaint.
I
He gave me a
honestly
look.
can't tell. Okay, hold on.
Can't say officially,
Everybody close your
but
eyes, okay? I'm
it
gonna
came in with
turn
Glenridge
it on the
HOA
gimbal. It's gonna
letterhead.
turn around.
I watched him drive off and stood in the driveway for a while, arms
All right,
crossed.
there we go.
I wasn't
Wow,
surprised, just
professional camera's
annoyed.
back.
Rowena had lost in court, but she
Okay,
wasn't used to
sorry.
losing. People like her didn't stop, they escalated.
Yes, I actually was still asleep. Okay,
3 days
so
later,
put
I woke up to find
I
my
put
trailer
hold on,
covered
where's my
in bright
music? Oh,
orange
stopping.
stickers that read "Impound Notice." A tow truck idled at the curb,
go.
the driver tapping a tablet. I walked out in
I
boots and a
forgot to
flannel,
announce
calm
it
but ready.
in the
You got the
Discord,
wrong
and I was, like,
house,
already
pal,
trying to
I
fall
said. He looked
asleep.
up. You Kyle
then,
Jensen? Yeah,
and then I was
HOA
like
called
half
this
asleep,
in,
and I was like,
said the
"Oh,
vehicle's
fuck, I forgot to
unauthorized and
announce it in
needs
my
removal.
Discord." So I,
This vehicle's
I opened my eyes, I
registered,
was like,
insured,
"Oh,
and
it's
on
my
private
fault."
property.
And then
You tow it, that's
stupidly,
theft.
I forgot
He
how the
hesitated.
Discord timestamp works because
They
I'm
said it
not
was
thinking
communal
straight,
property.
and I put it for like.
I
'cause
pointed
was
at the
thinking, okay,
survey
I
stakes
think I'm
that
gonna
had been
start
there
at,
since
like,
I moved in.
9 a.m.
You see that?
Amsterdam
That's
time.
my
So
boundary
instead of
marker.
putting this
You so
timestamp
much
in
as
Korean
hook a
time,
chain to
I
that
put it
hitch,
in
and I won't be calling the
Amsterdam time,
HOA,
and then I
I'll
went
be
back to
calling the
sleep.
sheriff.
So I'm
He
very
backed
sorry
off
about
and
that.
drove away without
I
a
was
word.
just half not
That
really
night,
there. Let's just say
I
that.
installed 4
Hi,
more security
Shifties.
cameras
Okay,
and ran the
sorry. Let's
feed
go look at
directly
some
to a
cherry
drive
blossoms,
I
enough
kept
of
off
my
site.
Shenanigans.
I also filed a report with the
Oh.
sheriff's department for attempted vehicle
I'm so
theft,
sleepy, though.
attaching the footage. 2 days later, a neighbor named Elise knocked on my door. I'd seen her around single mom, worked long shifts at the
Everybody's taking
hospital.
pictures.
"Hey," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "Can I talk to you for
Well,
a
I think
sec?"
it's gonna be-
"Sure, everything
This spot is
okay?"
always,
She
like,
stepped
so
inside and
crowded
lowered her
'cause
voice.
there's just a lot of
I
space
overheard
around,
something at the HOA meeting last night. Rowena's been trying to redraw the
Some cherry
neighborhood
blossom
boundaries.
seeds and plant them in
Like
the forest.
officially,
I would
she
love
wants to
that.
annex the
Like, look at
properties
that.
on this
She's
side of the
super
street.
professional.
Yours included. She can't do that, I said. There are legal steps, public notice, unanimous consent. The county has to approve it. She's pushing for what she called
It's
a
always very crowded here
retroactive
because a lot of
inclusion
people take
clause.
pictures 'cause
Said
it's,
she knew
like,
someone in the
very good
zoning
spot to take
office who
pictures.
could
We've
make
been here last
paperwork
year,
disappear.
actually. I don't
That
know if you
caught
guys
my
can
attention.
remember. The only single
Did she
one.
name anyone? Just said
It
he
is
owed her
what
a
it is.
favor.
I'm actually
I don't know
here
what
with
kind
my
of favor
boyfriend.
that is, but it sounded shady.
Oh, there actually was a guy
I
behind
thanked
me.
her
thought
and
that it would
offered
be
to walk her
empty.
back. She shook her
Sorry
head and
to
left
this
quickly,
girl
like she
who
didn't
ran
want to
me
be
over.
seen. That weekend, I drove down
By
to the county
way,
recorder's
I am so
office.
exhausted right now. I can't know if you can
I
tell,
requested
I'm so
any recent
tired.
filings by the Glenridge
So my
HOA.
speech is like
The clerk,
slightly
a guy
slurred.
named Marcus, typed for a while, then looked up. Actually, yeah, they submitted an amended
so
charter
pretty
last
sad.
Friday. Includes 3 new parcels. Yours is one. Who signed off on
There's
it?
like
He
a
checked the
tiny
screen.
Little, do you see that?
Looks like
a
the zoning
little
supervisor,
thing up there.
a guy named Doyle. I felt my jaw tighten. Doyle and I had worked the same beat 12 years ago. He was the kind
What
of
did you
guy
do
who
last
used his
night? Yeah,
badge
that's
to
the
get out of
thing, girl. I was
parking
in bed
tickets
by
and liked to
8.
bend rules if he
I
thought
was
nobody
in bed by
was
8
watching.
p.m.
Not corrupt
I
in
had
the
some,
dramatic
like,
Hollywood
work-related
sense, but
stuff that
slippery.
needed to be done, like,
Opportunistic.
on my phone.
I asked Marcus
So
for
I
a
was
copy
up
of the
doing that till,
filing,
like,
paid the
12.
fee, and drove straight to the
But
county
I slept for
commissioner's
10 hours.
office.
I don't know why I'm tired, but you
I
guys
knew
know how it is.
Commissioner
Some days I have
Vargas
bad
from a
days.
town
I think
hall
today I'm just
project
having a
we both
slightly
worked on back when I was
worse
still in
day. But
enforcement.
look how beautiful this is.
She remembered me. Got something ugly you
skipped
might want to
sleep.
see,
Why?
I told her, handing over the filing. She
I
scanned
know,
the
I felt
document.
so bad
Is this a
because,
joke?
like, I
These
myself
parcels aren't
absolutely
even
hate waking
contiguous
up
with the
early.
Glenridge tract. Exactly.
Oh, I'm so
And the
jealous. I wanna
signatures
get
are
pictures
forged.
too. Man.
That's not my handwriting and
Seriously,
the
to
other
get
2
more
lots
friends.
listed. One of them's owned by a retired couple in
So they
Florida
take
who
a
haven't been
picture of
here
me.
in over a year. She pursed her lips. And this
That's
got
ugly,
processed
don't I?
last Friday
I
by
did
Doyle.
change my
She
mind.
stood up. I'll
I
handle
know,
it.
I'm sorry. I was fully prepared
And you might
to
want to
stream
talk
at
to
the
the
time
sheriff.
I said, like,
By
something
Tuesday,
really last
an
minute
investigation
came up that
had been
I had to do
opened.
first, like, work
The county
related,
clerk's
so I'm very
office froze
sorry.
all pending HOA filings.
Hey,
The sheriff's
hey, I wanna
department
say
sent
one
2
thing. I am pretty
investigators to my
punctual with
house
streams.
to take
It's
a
just when
statement.
I do IRLs, it's normally off my
I handed
usual
them the
schedule.
security footage,
So,
the impound attempt, and the
like,
forged
technically, Typically during those
annexation
hours, I
paperwork.
am on the clock.
One of the
so if my
deputies,
work is
a
randomly like, hey
broad-shouldered
girl, you
guy
need to do
named
something,
Harlan,
I
nodded
cannot be like,
slowly as he flipped
actually,
through the evidence.
I have to straight.
This isn't just a
like,
civil
I
matter
said I could
anymore.
work those hours.
This is fraud, misuse of public resources, and possibly
But normally
conspiracy
that
to
doesn't
commit
happen
extortion.
because like I don't.
I gave him
I'm technically
Rowena's
off
full
the
name
clock
and the
during my
address listed
usual
on her
work
HOA
hours.
registration.
During my
We
usual
know
streaming
it,
hours.
he said.
But sadly, IRLs are just.
You're not the
often
only
off
one
it.
who's filed complaints. That night, I watched from my porch as two unmarked
got
cruisers
past
pulled
this
up to
crowd. It's really
Rowena's
crowded
house. They were inside for nearly an hour. When they left, she stood in the doorway, arms folded, face pale. By Thursday, Glenridge's HOA board was in full panic mode. Elise texted me discreetly to say that 3 board members had resigned. Rowena, however, was doubling down, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, an administrative error. But I just received something she couldn't spin away. A subpoena. I was being called to testify in a formal hearing with the County Ethics Committee. So was Doyle, and so was Rowena. At the hearing, Rowena looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Her blazer was wrinkled and her notes were a mess. Doyle didn't show up. His lawyer
but
did,
it's
citing
because
health
this
issues.
is the best spot to take
I presented my
pictures
evidence
because you are
methodically.
like at the height of
The
the cherry
judge wasn't the
blossoms.
same one from
Like,
the
if you're
small
down
claims
there,
case, but the look on his face
it's like
was identical.
The cherry blossoms are quite
Disbelief
high up, right?
turning
so
to
you would
disgust.
have to take a picture from very low angle.
Rowena
to get
tried
the
to
cherry
deflect,
blossoms in,
saying
but not
she'd
here.
relied
You
on
can just do it like
assurances
that.
from
So that's
county
why
staff.
people, like, this
The
is like a big
commissioner
credit
cut her
for it.
off. You submitted documents with forged signatures. You attempted to seize control of properties that were never legally part of your association.
Okay,
You issued
somebody
fines
take a
without
picture.
jurisdiction
Oh, there's a
and
guy.
filed a fraudulent amendment with the zoning office. Rowena opened her mouth,
I'm
then
not
closed it
joking. Can
again.
somebody take a
When the
screenshot?
ruling came, it was swift. The Glenridge HOA charter was revoked effective immediately. All fines, liens, and
Thank you.
actions taken under
That's
its
all you have to do.
authority
I
were
appreciate it.
nullified. Rowena
the
was
last time I'll
referred
do
to
it,
the
I
district
promise.
attorney for criminal investigation.
But yeah, I
Doyle
think they're
was
gonna be
placed on
gone soon.
administrative
Kinda
leave
sad.
pending
Otherwise, I can
internal
text my
review.
friend if she wants to
I stepped out of the
go
building
take
into the
pictures,
sunlight,
but
feeling lighter than I had
sadly,
in
I think
weeks.
they're employed, you know?
A few neighbors were waiting outside. Elise was there, along with a couple I barely knew who lived 2 doors down. They clapped as I walked past. We're throwing a block party Friday, someone said.
Friend, please.
No HOA required. I nodded, smiled, and said, I'll bring the
Shoot,
trailer.
Sorry, I didn't bring
The
her
Friday
with me. I
evening
forgot
block
to
party
bring her
stretched
with me.
across 3 front yards with fold-out tables
I
full
remember to
of
bring her
grilled
next time,
food
though.
and homemade
Could somebody
sides.
maybe
Kids
redeem
zipped
it?
past in chalk-covered scooters,
Give
and someone
it
had
back,
set up a
sorry.
cornhole board near my
Thank you.
trailer, which now bore a
You can put it
hand-painted
in
sign that
this
read,
board.
Freedom
Oh
Lot.
my god, it's so cute.
The irony wasn't lost on
Ignore
anyone.
my nail that fell off.
I was
hopefully.
adjusting the speaker volume when a woman I hadn't
Had
met
it. Okay,
before
so
approached with a
look how
plate
much less
balanced in
crowded. There's
one
no cherry
hand and a
blossoms
cautious
here.
expression.
Versus
You're Kyle, right?
that side.
I live over near the cul-de-sac,
A lot more
she said,
intense.
offering a quick handshake. I'm Dana. I used to be on the Architectural Review Committee.
They're so cute.
Before all this, I nodded,
ready
setting
right
down the
now?
remote.
Yeah,
You
you
must
know
be
what?
glad it's over.
Who am I married
Her shoulders
to?
dipped slightly.
I can't
That's the
say
thing,
I
I don't
signed
think it
an
is.
NDA.
I raised an eyebrow. She glanced around before
Imagine,
continuing.
that actually be really funny.
Rowena had access
is
to
Kyle.
the HOA's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
escrow reserve, about
Move.
$35,000. It was supposed to be untouched unless there was a community emergency. But the last time I checked the books right before I resigned, nearly $27,000 was transferred out. When? 6 weeks ago.
Cute.
She categorized it as legal contingency planning, but that was before
your
she even
Saturday?
filed
What
the
did you guys
claim
do?
against you. I
I
frowned.
can't even remember what
You
I
think
did.
she pocketed
oh, yeah.
it?
Oh my god.
She didn't write herself
I
a check,
randomly
if
decided
that's what
to,
you
like,
mean.
Join what the fuck
She
is that?
transferred it
Get
to a
around
shell
button.
vendor
What the
called
fuck
Ridgeway
is?
Management Solutions. I looked it up.
hello,
No
this
real
way.
website.
I don't know why
The
I thought
address
that was
leads to a UPS drop box. I didn't
They're
say
a little
anything
funny,
for a
so there's
moment.
one
Then I
there,
asked,
too. Where
"Did
is
you
it?
keep a copy
There?
of the
See it?
ledger?" Dana reached into her tote and pulled out a flash drive.
Why did you make a streamer cry?
I figured someone should have it. The original files were taken off the HOA's Google Drive 2 days ago.
What did you do?
I slipped it into my
Jeez.
back pocket. You just made my weekend more interesting.
No,
Late that night,
yesterday,
after the
I
last
was like,
cooler
I'm
was
in this
emptied
group
and the kids had
online,
been
and I
herded
rarely ever
home,
go
I
do
booted up
stuff.
my laptop.
But they were just like, oh,
The
we're having
folder
a
Dana
meetup
gave
for,
me
like,
wasn't just a
League of
transaction log.
Legends
It had internal
game,
emails, meeting notes,
competition.
and draft
And I
correspondence,
was
some
like,
of
you
which
know
had
what?
never
I
been
need to be
sent.
way more fucking
One
social
draft
with my house, so I
email,
decided to go.
dated
Where's-
over a
oh my
month
God,
before
I
my
had-
first
no, it was fun, it
violation
was fun.
notice, was
But I
addressed to
so
a private
anxious the whole
attorney.
time.
It outlined a plan to expand Glenridge jurisdiction to absorb unregulated lots and preemptively prepare lien protocols for non-compliant properties.
So pretty.
But the part that made my stomach turn came near the end, where she wrote, "If we can't gain consent, we'll establish implied community interest via deed reference confusion. Easier to enforce after the fact." She knew exactly what she was doing.
Thank you, Daiga.
I took
That's very
screenshots,
sweet.
labeled everything, and sent it to Commissioner
I
Varga's
truly
office with a
appreciate
brief
it.
note. I didn't expect a reply that late, but she
Yeah,
called
there
the
are
next
frauds.
morning.
mean,
I
there's, like,
forwarded
water.
this to
Oh,
the
shit,
DA,
well,
she said without
there's water.
preamble.
So that makes sense.
"You're going to want to stay nearby. There may be a formal
So many
deposition
frauds in this
request.
bad boy.
Is there enough here to move forward? There's enough here to charge her with
Yeah, no, I don't play
misappropriation
League
of
of
funds
Legends.
and
I think
attempting to
it's a
defraud
really weird
homeowners.
game. I don't really understand
But it gets
why people
worse."
find it
She
enjoyable.
paused.
But I do.
Rowena
at this point
submitted a
understand it. For
reimbursement
some
claim to the
reason,
county for
universe
legal
always
expenses
puts me-
related to the annexation process.
like
Nearly
connects me with League of Legends
$9,000.
players. I don't
She
know
listed it
why.
under
I
neighborhood
attract them for some
infrastructure
reason.
improvement. She tried to bill the county, which
I
means she
just
committed
decided to
fraud
go. But
against
it
a
was
public
fun.
agency.
It was like very small
That
setting,
bumps this
so-
out of small-time HOA
but I don't know.
politics
It
and
was-
into
it was- I
felony
felt a bit
territory.
awkward, I'm not gonna lie.
I let out a low whistle, and Doyle, already under
Yeah, I used to
investigation,
play Overwatch
but
too.
this makes his position
She was
worse.
trying to fight back to tears.
If he
Her eyes were
knowingly
super red.
approved an
Aw, that's so
annexation based
cute.
on fraudulent documents and received any kind of benefit, he's looking at conspiracy charges. I hung up and leaned
Sometimes I wish
back
it
in
was
my
easier for me
chair,
to cry.
staring
I
at
think
the
it would be a lot more
ceiling.
entertaining, but it's really hard.
What
for
had
me.
started
Look how
as a
beautiful
petty
this
turf
is.
war
Look
over a
at
fishing trailer was now
the big
unraveling
wall.
into a full
So
criminal case.
peaceful.
On Monday, I was contacted by a county investigator named Letitia Cruz. She wore a suit that looked like it had seen
used to
more
play Overwatch
courtrooms
with
than
you.
lunch breaks, and her voice was clipped with authority.
I don't remember that.
"We need
Harry.
your original footage and the
I
full
do not
copy of
remember
that flash
that.
drive," she said,
But then
flipping
again,
open her
maybe my memory-
notepad. "And I'd like to walk the property lines with you. Just to confirm the annexation
It's
attempt
like,
covered areas outside their legal reach.
You can make
We
your
spent
own
40 minutes
silver
marking
ring. It was
boundaries,
like it's
reviewing
like
the plat
a
map, and
class
cross-referencing
thing
the HOA
you can do here
filing.
in Seoul.
Letitia took photos,
And I saw a
double-checked
TikTok of it, and
measurements,
this
and
girl made
asked
like a
precise
kitty cat
questions.
ring, and I was like, ah.
Did
I wanna
anyone from
make
the
one that's
HOA
based off
ever
of my
physically
cat.
deliver a notice to your door before the fine letters?
Actually, I don't think there's
Nope.
much over
Everything
there. I think we
came
should head
through the
back soon,
mail.
'cause I remember
That
that was
matters,
just a road
she
there.
said.
So that's
If
kinda
they
lame. Let's
claim
head
you were
back.
aware of your inclusion but there's no record of direct contact,
terrible
it
sentence.
weakens any implied consent argument. I handed her 3 unopened letters I'd kept, all with the same postmark, all unsigned. Letitia collected everything, thanked me, and left with the professionalism of someone who already knew what the grand jury was going to decide. By Thursday,
Yeah,
the
you
news
make the
broke.
ring and you keep the ring.
A local outlet published a short article. Former HOA president under investigation for fraud, misuse of
Sorry,
public
I think
funds.
there was like a small dead
They
spot
didn't
over
name
there.
her
I think it's okay
directly,
now,
but
though.
everyone in Glenridge knew exactly who it was. A few neighbors
I remember
dropped
that
by
from
that
last
evening.
time. There was like over there.
Not to gossip
like a
that part
small
had
spot
passed,
that just
but to
no
ask what would
connection.
happen next.
I know what
One
they're
couple,
hiding
Ron
there,
and
maybe the
Maureen,
frogs.
had lived in the neighborhood for 19 years. They confessed that they'd always suspected the HOA was mismanaged,
I
but
like
had never
silver.
imagined it would go this far.
I have a lot
Do you
of
think we'll get any of that money
silver
back?
jewelry at the
Maureen
at this
asked,
moment.
holding a mug of tea like it was
My
a lifeline.
sister, well, she would be at
If
the,
the DA
other side
presses
of the
charges
world in
and
the
wins
Netherlands.
restitution, maybe,
She
but
said,
don't
whenever
count
I go
on
to
it,
Korea,
I
she's not
said.
with me, sadly. I wish I could
It's
bring her.
probably gone somewhere slick
But
and hard to
she
trace.
sadly has to, like,
What about
have to
Doyle?
school
He's not getting his
and get an
pension without a fight,
education.
that's for
Fucking
sure.
lame, I know.
That weekend, I was
Absolutely
asked
lame.
to attend a special community
Wanna make
meeting in
Saul
the park
happy.
gazebo. Not organized
I don't
by
think
any
so.
board,
Check
just
vampires.
neighbors
I
wanting to
wish,
reclaim
though.
some
Maybe
sense of
that's my problem.
direction.
I need to take
Someone
it
brought a
off. I wanna track
whiteboard.
them.
Another passed around a clipboard for contacts. They
It'd be weird
asked
if you
if I'd
make the ring.
consider
That'd actually
helping
be
draft
really
a
funny.
new charter,
They're
not
like,
an
okay,
HOA,
put
but
in
a
all this
voluntary
effort to make the
neighborhood
ring, but
council
you don't
that
get
could
to keep it.
advocate
They're
for
out.
city
They're for us, and
services
we're
and
gonna
host
sell it.
events. No fines, no enforcement, no bureaucracy. I agreed to help draft it under one condition. No titles, no president. No one gets
Alright,
more
time to get
power than
back
anyone
into
else.
the
They all
crowd.
agreed, On Monday, I was subpoenaed again, this time for a grand jury hearing related to Rowena's financial actions and Doyle's role in the annexation scheme. I sat in the courthouse for nearly 6 hours, answering questions under oath. When I emerged, Letitia was waiting outside. She handed me a sealed envelope. "Formal charges were filed this morning," she said. "Fraud, falsification of public records, and criminal misappropriation. She's being brought in for arraignment tomorrow. Bail, probably.
24 hours.
But she won't be sitting on any board again.
So sweet.
That part's over."
I'm really excited to
I
do it.
opened the
think I'm gonna
envelope
wait
when I
for
got
one of my
home.
friends to get back in April
Inside
and
was a
her,
formal
'cause she really
declaration from the
likes
county
jewelry
registrar
making.
stating that the Glenridge HOA was not only dissolved,
Leo tried not to
but
buy something
permanently
off the
barred
phone
from
list for one
reorganizing under the
challenge.
same name due to systemic
No, but thank you,
abuse
though,
of
Leo. That's so
authority
sweet. I
and
really
procedural
appreciate that.
violations.
For keep
I
sending me
pinned it to my
fucking
court
emails.
board. Later
Thanks,
that night,
Leo.
I
That's
walked
so
out to
sweet.
the
I'm so
curb.
excited. It's
The street
like
was
a
quiet.
silver, and I want to
Porch
make it
lights
into like
flickered
a
on
kitty
slowly
cat, so
like
it's like
stars in a
ears.
settling
You know, imagine
sky.
like a silver ring, but
The
that with
trailer
ears.
sat where
And
it
then, like,
always
you could put
had,
little stones in
undisturbed
there,
and
I want
now
to do them 2 stones that are
unquestionably
like the color
untouchable.
of her eyes.
From down the block,
So
someone
cute,
called out,
right?
"Hey Kyle, we're making signs for the new council. You want one?" "Sure," I said, "but make it simple."
So pretty.
"What do you want it to say?" I thought about it for a second. "No kings, no fines, just neighbors." That got a cheer from across the street.
Like it's
And
like
for the
one of
first
more
time
popular
since
spots
I'd
to watch
moved
cherry
in,
blossoms,
it
but I
actually
really
felt
like
like home. 2 weeks after the grand jury hearing, I got a call
If
just
you
after
can, just
sunrise.
don't go into weekends
It
like
was
I do.
Letitia
You're
Cruz,
honestly better
the
off
county
not.
investigator who'd walked the property lines with me. Her voice was sharper than usual. "We executed a search warrant this morning,"
Hold on,
she said.
This crowd.
"Rowena's residence and a storage unit she rented under a different name. We found documents we didn't expect, some that tie her to forged bank statements and backdated contracts." I sat up on the edge of the bed, rubbing my face. "How deep does it go?" "Deeper than we thought.
Darn.
There are records of payments made to a private investigator, someone she hired to dig into residents who opposed her, including you." That yanked me fully awake. "She paid someone to follow me, not just follow.
Disconnected again?
He pulled your property history, employment records, even tried to access your voter registration through a third-party vendor. She kept notes on you, typed, printed, filed by date. There's a section labeled exerting leverage." My stomach turned. Letitia continued. "There's also a ledger of HOA dues collected from residents who weren't technically part of the association, people like Dana,
it's just
Elise,
a good
and 2
place to
dozen
go
others.
view them.
Some of them were intimidated into paying. Rowena listed
And this
them
spot
as
is
soft
just really good.
targets.
Like I said, it's good
I
for
looked out the
pictures.
window.
The other spots is not that bad.
The neighborhood looked the same on the surface, but it was like staring at a pond after realizing how many snakes lived under it. "She's being arraigned again this afternoon," Letitia said. "This time, there's no bail."
Yeah,
Later
it's
that
like a
day, I
new
drove
trend,
down to the
actually,
courthouse not to
use the
testify,
older
but just to be
phones,
present.
older
A few
cameras,
others from the neighborhood came
because
too.
they give like a
Elise
very
was there,
beautiful
standing with her arms
kind of
crossed,
like,
flanked by 2
it's like
older
vintage
residents I hadn't
look
met
to it.
before.
I also
Word was
prefer
spreading
to use like a
fast.
digital camera over my phone.
Inside, the courtroom was packed. Rowena entered in a plain gray jumpsuit, her wrists cuffed. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, but in presence.
Right.
The judge read off the new charges:
to wall
wire
people
fraud, identity misuse, falsification of public documents, and criminal harassment. Her attorney tried to argue diminished responsibility due to stress and community pressure, but the judge cut him off. There is no justification for systematic deception,
But no, that's why I'm
financial
sad, because like I
exploitation,
almost
and
always only
covert
take pictures,
surveillance
like all
of
my Instagram
private
pictures, they're all
individuals,
taken
he
with
said.
with my Sony
This
camera.
court is ordering
So
a
I just think it
full
looks
audit
way
of
better
all
than
HOA
iPhone,
financial
honestly.
activities for the past 5 years.
Okay, hold on, let me get
Rowena
this
didn't
spot
look up
very
once.
easy.
As we left the courtroom,
Like, I'm not in the
Elise
way of
turned to me.
people.
She
Look
had
at it right
files
now.
on us.
I'm gonna
"What else do you
chill
think
down
she
the
was
street, but, like,
planning?"
see?
I shook my
It's
head.
just that spot
Doesn't
is
matter
very,
anymore.
very popular, but
She's not going to get the chance. Back in Glenridge, the effects of the fallout were finally surfacing. A local title agency had begun reaching out to affected homeowners, offering to help them clear any residual liens placed by the now defunct HOA. The county had issued a blanket nullification order for all unauthorized fines and amendments Rowena had filed during her tenure. Ron and Maureen, the couple I'd spoken with at the park meeting, had offered their garage as a temporary document center. Volunteers came by with boxes of old notices, fines, and letters they'd kept over the years. The goal was to build a
Okay, if the weather
complete
is good
history of
tomorrow,
what the
I think I'm gonna
HOA
text
had
my
done,
friend.
what it
I'm
had
like,
taken, who it had threatened, and how
You wanna
far
go
the manipulation
take
had spread.
pictures?
One of the biggest surprises came from a
Gotta
man
slay.
named Ben, a retired
Gotta
postal
work for
worker
that
who'd lived 3
Instagram.
houses down from Rowena for over a decade. He brought in a stack of envelopes that had been returned to the HOA's address, but never remailed dozens of them. Many were certified mail
I can't believe
notices
that's
that
almost
Rowena
like a
had
year
logged
since
as
we went
delivered.
here last.
She
Like,
asked
that's
me
kinda
once if I could
crazy.
misplace something for her, Ben said. I didn't think much of it at the time,
Internet,
but I
I'm
guess
sorry,
I should
it might
have.
just be this
The
spot.
evidence was
There are a
overwhelming.
lot of people, so it could also.
By the end of the month,
Not really
the district
help with
attorney's
that.
office filed a civil suit alongside the criminal case, seeking
really
restitution
bad
for
now?
misused funds and damages to the community. A judge ordered Rowena's personal assets frozen, her bank accounts, her second vehicle,
Yeah, 'cause it's
and
not my
even her
neighborhood.
investment
It's, like,
property
really
in a
good,
neighboring
but
town.
Sometimes there's a
Doyle,
weird spot.
the zoning supervisor who'd signed off on the fraudulent annexation, resigned quietly and
It
was
is a
later
really nice
indicted
day,
on
actually.
2
Like,
counts
the
of
sky
official
is, like, nice and
misconduct.
blue, which is super pretty.
His plea agreement included a permanent
Active.
ban from holding any public office or government
It's
job.
just like it's
While the
called
legal
Soul
machinery
Forest
churned, the neighborhood
Park,
took
I
on a
think
new
is the
rhythm.
official title.
Without the HOA breathing down everyone's necks, small changes began to appear porch
honestly,
furniture
this
that
place
didn't
is
match the
always
design
pretty crowded
standards,
because it's, like, one
garden
of the bigger
flags that had
parks
once
here
been
in
forbidden,
Seoul.
and a few colorful
So,
mailboxes that
but it's
probably would have
especially now 'cause
triggered a
of the shared
formal letter
listings.
last year.
'Cause they're
People
not there
started
for that
waving
long.
more.
Like, I think in
Walking
next week,
slower,
they'll not look
talking
like this
longer
anymore.
over fences, the community council we drafted took root, aided by volunteers like Dana and Elise. They organized a town hall-style meeting at the local library to
perfect,
discuss
okay. Yeah,
everything from
sometimes there's, like,
drainage issues
weird
to hosting a
little-
summer movie
little
night.
spots
No
that
one had
just
authority. No one wanted it.
make it
That
go
was the
burr and
point.
make it disappear.
One afternoon, I got a knock on the door. A man in a navy polo introduced himself
least
as a
I've had
federal
the-
investigator from the Office of Inspector General. He'd been assigned to
thank
review any
you.
federal
Yeah.
implications
Now
from
they
Rowena's
learn.
actions,
Yeah.
particularly
Where are you from?
regarding the use of postal services and identity
Australia. I
records.
always wanted to-
She used a
No, I
federal
want
database to verify someone's employment,
so
he
beautiful,
said.
right?
That's a felony.
Yes,
We're
I
coordinating
do.
with state prosecutors to consolidate
What
charges.
city are you from?
I offered him
Oh,
everything I had
yeah.
left copies of documents, timestamps
Are you
from the
just
security system,
visiting?
even the logbook Dana had
you like
compiled from the HOA's shared drive before they took it offline. He thanked me and promised to follow up.
Yeah, it is, right?
By the time summer rolled around, the courthouse had
Taxi drivers
scheduled
are, like, the
Rowena's
worst
criminal
at it.
trial for late August.
Yeah,
The
I
list
get
of
that.
witnesses
Yeah,
was
honestly,
long
just
over 30
translating apps
residents,
work the
2
best,
county
but sometimes-
officials, and 3
Oh, hi,
forensic
it's just so
accountants.
beautiful too.
The prosecution intended to prove not just fraud,
that's a
but a
cool
pattern of
city. I always
calculated
wanted to go
abuse
there.
veiled under the authority of a homeowners association.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't called to testify again. My job was done, but the DA's office kept me updated. The trial
not everybody
lasted
wants to be on
4
camera,
days.
guys.
On the 5th, the
Very
verdict
rude to
came
show the
down.
camera in somebody's face.
Guilty on all counts.
Very nice.
Sentencing was
I forgot what I
scheduled
was
for the
saying.
following month. She was given 6 years in state prison, restitution of $32,000 to be distributed among affected residents,
My
and a
brain is so
10-year
dead
ban
today. I'm
on
just like-
serving in any organizational leadership, civic, private,
There's
or
just elevator
otherwise.
music in my head today.
The courtroom was quiet when she was let out. No one cheered.
Right?
No one had to. Justice didn't need applause. Back in Glenridge, the trailer still sat in my driveway. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder
Thank
of how
you.
far someone would go to control what wasn't theirs. Of how important it is to know your rights, and of how a
I mean, I get
neighborhood,
that. I
when
also-
pushed,
I
can
have a
push
hard time
back
with
harder.
people. I don't do it. I
Elise
want to,
stopped
though.
by
I
one
kinda
evening
wanna
with
be
a
like
clipboard
that,
full
but
of
I have a hard
signatures.
time doing it. Like,
We're putting
yesterday
together
I
a
had to
petition
go
to
to
convert the
that,
old HOA
to that
building into a
party,
community
like, it was like
space,
the League
she
of
said.
Legends game
Maybe a reading
slash
room.
meetup.
Or just somewhere
But
to sit
mind
and
you, I don't
talk.
play League of Legends. It was just
I
because my
signed without
friend used to
asking
be in
questions.
records. I was
As
like,
she
you know
walked
what?
away,
Let's
I
just
looked
go,
down the
whatever.
street. Lawn chairs
then
on porches,
before I go,
chalk
I,
drawings
like,
on
hype myself up.
sidewalks,
I'm like, I'm
a
gonna
wind
talk
chime
to so
clinking
many
lazily
people.
in the
I'm gonna make, like,
breeze.
so many
No
friends.
more
I'm gonna be
letters,
so
no more
social.
threats, no more
And then I
clipboards in
arrive
the
and I'm just
driveway.
like,
Just neighbors, just
what
peace.
if I